But don't look in your rearview mirror, here comes number 8. He's a rocker and a roller and he sure knows how to shut 'em down. I guess he runs independent until the dead is back in town. Yeah, I guess he runs independent until the dead is back in town. That boy, stand on it, son.
And welcome to the Nasboys podcast. Now, did you know that in the inaugural Cup race at Bristol, Jack Smith was declared the winner? He had a relief driver named Johnny Allen who drove the second half of the event. It would have been Allen's first win, but due to the NASCAR rules, Smith was the winner because he started the race. So anyways, guys, welcome to the Nasboys podcast. I'm your host, Mike, a.k.a. Mike Bob Fan 101. With my good friends and co-hosts, Christian, a.k.a. Savage NASCAR.
What's up, y'all?
Cam, a.k.a. I Spy Cam.
Howdy, y'all.
And finally, making his return, Josiah, a.k.a. Josiah_Calhoun.
Hi, I'm glad to be back.
So let's get started with the show tonight. We are going to start out with the Richmond recap from this weekend, starting out with the Xfinity race. What did you guys think?
I was surprised to see Gregson go back-to-back, but it was really cool to see him get the win. I wasn't able to watch the race. I did go through some highlights because I was at a huge car meet, but it was a good race, I would say. There was a couple stupid cautions, I felt like, in some points. Like, I don't remember one of the drivers, but he just dove it in really deep in one of the corners in turn 3 and just took out like 3 or 4 guys. But, I mean, it's a great way for Gregson to start off the playoff, and it's been a huge turnaround for that team because, as we've mentioned before in previous episodes, he started off the season bad. He had a lot of like rough races, and he crashed out, and there's a couple times that he could have won that he didn't. Last 2 weekends, he's changed. It's like it's a new driver, it seems. He's just out here dominating.
Yeah, it feels good to be right. Finally got to pick right again. It's been a while, It's been some time, and finally got to pick right, which is nice. I didn't really get to watch the race much, sadly, and I really haven't had much time this weekend at all. I got to watch a little bit of the NASCAR race, which you'll see my opinion on later. But I'm happy I got to pick right. Just that.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I agree. I was also surprised to see Noah Gragson win 2 in a row, but also I am very happy about that because Noah Gregson's my favorite Xfinity driver. But yeah, and it was also really fun to watch Dale Jr. race.
Yes, it was.
It's always fun to watch him race.
I thought it was a pretty solid race. Just better than the Cup race, in my opinion, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Gregson going 2 in a row, I couldn't believe it personally. I thought that when Cam picked Gregson, I was like, what are you doing, Cam? But no, I was mistaken. Gregson going 2 in a row, that was very impressive, and that's a lot of momentum going into the playoffs. So now let's take a look at what you guys had to say. And I have to cut things out again. All right, now let's take a look at what you guys had to say. 3 of you said great, 5 of you said good, none of you said massage okay, and none of you said bad. No thoughts, and driver of the day is Noah Gragson. I'm not really too sure who to give driver of the day to. Do you guys have any picks?
I don't have any other driver of the days, but I will say, Josiah mentioned Dale Jr. Dale Jr. had a pretty decent race. It wasn't a great race for him, but there was one point where he had to go back. I don't remember what it was for, but he dropped farther to the back because it was either a penalty or a pit mistake or something. But he worked himself back up to 14th. But driver of the day for me has to be Noah Gragson or AJ Allmendinger. I think AJ was sort of towards the front most of the race.
Yeah, and I just want to mention a couple things. First off, my driver of the day is AJ Allmendinger. I forgot that he had that great run. I thought he was going to win the race. But another thing is Josh Williams. We've praised him numerous times on the podcast before, but now he seems to be trying to stir up some beef with Dale Jr. They had a little bit of an incident, so here's the clip of that. I don't really have too much of an opinion on it because it's a racing incident, but I think that he's just milking it a little bit.
I feel like people over-exaggerated, but he over-exaggerated it too. I mean, Junior did run him pretty hard. I mean, it's good old bump and run. You know what I'm saying? Who doesn't love a good old bump and run? But I can see why he'd be a little frustrated about that.
Yeah. I didn't really get to watch the race, as I said, so I'm going with what everybody else is saying. So AJ.
I'll go with AJ Allmendinger too.
All right. So now let's talk about the Cup race. What did you guys think of that?
Feels good to win 2 predictions in a row for the Cup race. Martin Truex Jr. got the job done. I thought Hamlin was going to win that race. I mean, the race wasn't that exciting. I know a lot of people didn't like it at all. I've given it like a 4 or a 3.5 out of 10 because there was some good racing at some points, but there was also a lot of like boring. It was sort of boring towards like the second half of the race. Chase Elliott was up there at the beginning, and then he fell back, and he was getting lapped, and he had to work himself back to getting unlapped. We saw Hendrick Carr struggle, William Byron struggled, Alex Bowman struggled, and now Byron's in the spots where he might miss the next round, and it's really tight around the cut line now because of all that. What happened? We saw Kurt Busch wreck. He's
off this battle right on the roof cam. The Advance Auto Parts camera. Oh,
Big hit there for the one of Kurt Busch.
that looks a lot. Yep, that looks a lot like a left rear tire.
Yeah, you see the tire off the wheel right there, and Bubba Wallace drives over it. Wow.
at part of the cut line. Yeah, there's just a lot of big stories coming up into this upcoming race at Bristol. And I will say, I knew Truex Jr. was going to have a good race, and I picked him to win. But at certain points, I was like, yeah, he's just not as fast as him. He's not as fast as Busch. But we saw Kurt Busch get that pit road penalty, and it's like, oh, here we go. Truex was in the lead when cycled around. If Hamlin had like 5 more laps or less, he would have caught him. But yeah, kind of happy that Truex won, even though I'm not a Truex fan. I did pick him. But yeah, I thought the Cup race wasn't that exciting, but it wasn't like the worst race of the season.
Yeah, I kind of got near the end of the race, and so I always feel like the end of the race is always really exciting, no matter what. And man, I really thought Hamlin was going to get him. I thought Hamlin was going to go, and win again, which I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest, because Hamlin does kind of, once he gets on a roll, he just keeps going for a while. And, you kind of see him every once in a while, like when really he gets one, you kind of see him go back to back. So I was like, I wasn't surprised that he was getting up there, but seeing Martin Truex win, man, I don't know, kind of shocked me. Just like Christian said, he was just slow. He was just a slower car. And, you saw all the Hendrick cars struggle. So, I kind of wonder if they all kind of went with the same game plan or what. And, you could see that kind of happen. And it was an okay race. I mean, for what I got to saw, it was not a bad race.
Yeah, I feel like this was a pretty meh race to me. I feel like I was kind of bored while watching it, but this is a pretty good win for Truex Jr. I think he is definitely one of the championship favorites this season. I wouldn't go as far and say that he is the championship favorite, but I think he's definitely up there, maybe 2 or 3 second favorite right now. But yeah, I thought this was just a meh race. As I said, I was kind of bored, but I was also kind of disappointed because Brad ended up having a bad day too, and now he's only 13 above. So I think Brad will still make it past this round, but it is pretty close. You never know who's gonna win, and I'm also surprised that the 2 Hendrick drivers of William Byron and Alex Bowman, I'm also surprised that they are both below. So that's pretty surprising, yeah. But, I do hope – I don't know if both of them are going to make it, but I do hope the best for them, and I hope that they're going to make it.
Yeah, William Byron and Alex Bowman kind of having a Ryan Blaney-type playoffs last year. when Blaney got the penalty, and then he just could not recover. But I thought the race, it started out really good. It started out intense when Truex got the restart penalty or the start penalty, because supposedly he jumped the restart, but people were saying the 11 spun his tires, so I don't really know. But just the last stage was just kind of boring. It just kept getting boring and boring, and Truex and Hamlin were just the only two that pulled away, and Truex really was the guy who pulled away. Hamlin didn't really get a chance to challenge within the last 50 laps, which that was really boring, and it was one of the only NASCAR races this season where I was really counting the laps down, and not in a good way, just because I wanted to go to sleep and just end the race.
Oh, I meant to add something else too, real quick, about the Xfinity race. We did point out that the cars number 9 and the car number 11 were first and second in the Xfinity race on 9/11. That was crazy. That shocked me. I'm like, oh boy.
That's true. Actually, I forgot about that. I kind of made a joke saying watch the 11 win on 9/11, so that way they get 9 and 11 again. But
yeah,
no, that was very weird. I didn't realize until I looked at who finished second and the car number. But yeah, now let's take a look at what you guys had to say. One of you said great, one of you said good, 4 of you said meh/okay, and 1 of you said bad. Henry24257 says 100% boring in all caps. Hope package gets fixed. Okay, I agree that Richmond has been kind of like crappy with the newer package since like 2017, 2018. I can't remember when they changed the package and made it boring. But it has been boring, and it's been probably my least favorite short track. And then when I watch videos for the top 10, and I was intrigued by the racing. You know what I'm saying? Nowadays, it's just so boring. You'll see later on in the video when we get or not later on in the video, excuse me, that's Bristol moments. But last week's top 10, it was interesting to watch all the racing, but now it's just gotten so boring at Richmond.
Yeah, I know. This is one thing that no one's asked me about, but I want to feel like saying 2016 Richmond was easily one of the best Richmond races I've ever witnessed.
That was a good race.
And the driver of the day is Martin Truex, which I think Hamlin had more of a dominant race than Truex, but if I had to give it to something that really impressed me, I know that it was pretty easy for him to overcome, but he still overcame it. So in that sense, I got to go with Truex. Like I said, he had the penalty at the beginning where either the 11 spun his tires or he just went too early, and he overcame it and won the race. So I'll give it to Martin Truex Jr.
It was, for me, it's between Truex Jr. and Hamlin. I have to go with Hamlin just because of how much he led throughout that race, and he almost caught Truex there at the end.
I gotta agree. I gotta go Hamlin, man. He was really close to winning, and just like Christian said, I think if there was 5 more laps, Hamlin would have passed him.
Yeah, you know what? Even though he's my least favorite driver, I'll give it to Denny Hamlin because, as you guys were saying, he was really fast there at the end, and I think if there was a few more laps, he probably would have caught Truex and went to win the race.
All right, so now let's talk about some news. We're going to start off with the schedule being released. I'm not sure if it was released yesterday or today because NASCAR officially released it today, but I saw something about it yesterday. So on the day that we're recording this, that is, yesterday was Tuesday, September 14th, and today is September 15th. So I don't know, but the schedule was released the week that we're recording this. Some notable changes are the Clash at Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, which we already discussed. Circuit of the Americas is coming earlier in the season now on March 20th. Let's see what we got here. We got Gateway on Sunday, June the 5th, and the Clash, by the way, is Sunday, February 6th. Homestead has gotten moved to the Elite 8 round, or the round of 8, I don't know, on Sunday, October 16th. and Pocono lost a day like what we mentioned prior. What do you guys think of the schedule?
Well, there's a lot of things I could say about schedule that could be good and bad. It's cool to see Auto Club back, but if I'm correct, this is the new Auto Club, the one they're changing. I don't know if they've started construction for that, but it's supposed to be the Auto Club that's the short track, and a
correct.
couple other ones. One of them that I will say I don't like that I've seen so far. 2 Atlanta races in the first half of the season. I'm not a huge fan of the new Atlanta. I feel like they should just have one of those Atlanta dates at the very beginning of the season. We see Las Vegas twice. I don't think Las Vegas should have 2 dates on the NASCAR schedule. I even see Sonoma. Well, yeah, Sonoma's on here. Gateway, we talked about that last week. I just think that would be kind of a mess. All-Star race staying in Texas. The All-Star race should be somewhere else, in my opinion. Of course, he mentioned the Clash last week. I'm just looking through some of them as well. They're notables. I was surprised to see the Miami change, Miami being that far back, of course, close to the end of the schedule. They are they're the second to last or third to last race of the season, and Phoenix has 2 dates again. So yeah, that's just some of them that I found notable.
Yeah, personally, I think they should take one race off of Las Vegas and give it back to Pocono. I mean, as much as people hate on Pocono, you can't lie. You can't lie. Everybody hates on it, but once the race happens, it's really good.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that Las Vegas is kind of a pointless racetrack. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's needed, but it's not to race needed. And, I think that they have that whole new crap at the Coliseum or whatever. That just is going to be a mess. Gateway, I think, is going to be super fun. I'm excited to see that. Pushing Homestead back, honestly, I'm not really too upset about that. Honestly, I kind of think it would be a little bit different, honestly. And I kind of like to see how that turns out because I feel like it honestly give a lot of drivers a helping hand, which would, kind of makes playoffs more interesting.
Yeah.
And then the 2 Atlanta races, I don't really know how I feel on that. I kind of like Atlanta, to be honest, but the fact that they're both in the more beginning part of the season, first part anyways, I despise that. I think they should put it later on or even in the playoffs. I mean, I'm not sure. It's just not there. That's for sure. And the new Auto Club, I'm excited to see how that goes down.
Yeah.
I personally think it's gonna be a wreck. I think that's gonna be a wreck fest.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I noticed that Dover lost a date. I don't know if there's 2 this season at Dover, but I only see 1 Dover
Dover's
race.
had 1 day since this season.
Yeah, so yeah, it's kind of threw me off. Josiah?
Okay, yeah, I feel like there's not really that much changes. It's kind of really similar to the season schedule where I'm not that really mad about anything, but yeah, I think I'm excited for Gateway to see how that does. And also I think that it is a good idea to put Homestead in the round of 8. That's where it is, right? The round of 8.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I think Homestead's a really good track, so I think I'll be excited for that. And yeah, I'm excited for the Bristol Dirt Race too. I think really I would kind of prefer if they just did a actual dirt track and not just put dirt over Bristol, but that's a different conversation. But yeah, I feel like this is a pretty solid schedule. Not really anything too crazy that I can think of, but yeah.
It looks relatively normal to me besides a couple of the changes. I'm gonna get my opinion on some of your guys' points. Starting off with the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. If you guys did not watch the last episode, basically I just said it's going to be a wreck fest, and I'm standing by that remark that it is going to be a wreck fest. Gateway, I'm very excited to see. Auto Club, I forgot that they were changing the configuration, so that will be interesting to see. I'm not really sure why they're changing the configuration, but more short tracks, and that's cool with me. And it's in a decent market too.
I feel bad for some of the teams because when they're going to have to go from California back to Daytona or back to their headquarters to Daytona twice, then back to California again, and just go back and forth east to west. That could be a little bit of a problem.
Exactly.
I'm sure some people won't like that.
Well, the thing is that like NASCAR, it really doesn't think about all the teams and the money issue. And I think that's been honestly noticed a lot. And I think that it's very stupid that they do that. And I also remember, now I'm not sure if this is true or not, but I did hear that at Auto Club, the new one, people are still going to be able to go like 5 wide on turns.
That's
on the end part.
Cool.
Which I think is going to be like, it's going to be so bad of a wreck fest because then you got to go right back into like a really like small. I mean, it looks small from what it looks like. It looks really small. I don't know how they're going to fit all these cars on there from what we can see. Maybe it's really long and I just look really stupid right now. But for now, I'm just.
It's probably going to be longer than Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. That's going to be a true wreck fest right there.
How are they even going to make the track? Like, I mean, we talked about this last episode. Where's the room? It's a football field, but yeah, there's maybe a little bit of a track around it. But how are you going to make the track?
They made Bowman gray. That's all I gotta say. Bristol Dirt Race.
20-some NASCAR Cup cars on Bowman gray. They won't be able to do it for the Clash. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. Yeah. We'll see.
I'm excited to see that wreckfest, but I do agree with your point that they should race on an actual dirt track. But I did like the Bristol Dirt Race, not just because Joey Logano won, because it was an actual decent race. So I'm excited to see that again. Gateway, I'm definitely excited to see. I think that it definitely deserved to be on the schedule for a while. And Homestead, Miami to the round of 8. That's a very interesting choice that I personally did not expect. But okay. And then Las Vegas having 2 dates still. I disagree that Las Vegas should have 2 dates. I don't know why it does, but all right. I think that they should give it to. I don't know. There's not really too many tracks that should have 2 dates. Most of them already do. And Pocono should not have 2 dates, I don't think. I mean, if the racing is like it was a couple months ago, I think so. But if it's going to go back to being like kind of crappy, then no, I don't think it deserves 2 dates. And I think that they should have a doubleheader on Indianapolis to keep that doubleheader going.
That would be cool to do.
Like one day having it on the road course and then the next day having it on the oval. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
Like back to back?
Yeah, like one day on Saturday they'll have it on the road course, and then on Sunday they'll have it on the oval for the Brickyard 400, the Crown Jewel race.
Very valid, Mike.
Facts, yeah.
Because IMS wants to bring back the oval, so I don't know. Hopefully they'll make a doubleheader. That would be the smart decision instead of giving it just like one day they'll go there and then they'll leave for a little bit and then come back.
So one thing I meant to mention too, Nashville, I'm guessing that's the 1.5 mile Nashville, not the Nashville Fairgrounds. That one's after the off week. And the Daytona one before the playoff, is that one going to be the road course or the normal circle, or not circle, oval?
It seems like it's going to be the normal track, which I hope it's the normal track because regular season finale at Daytona is absolutely epic.
You know what I will say is that I'm gonna go on strike soon with NASCAR. Okay, and here's why. Right, I want a racetrack in Ohio. Okay, that I can watch NASCAR on. All right, I refuse. I am tired of going to like Eldora, and they won't even try to race on Eldora. Don't even try.
Right.
What about Mid-Ohio? Mid-Ohio.
I mean, they could go to Mid-Ohio, but it's like the chances of that happening are slim.
Yeah,
because NASCAR just hates me. So
I don't think it's because they hate you. I just think, I don't know. It seems more like an expanded track to them.
No, NASCAR.
I was joking. Christian. I was not serious. I don't think NASCAR is like, what? Cam's watching our race? No. But all right, let's go on with the podcast.
Sheldon Creed will go to Richard Childress Xfinity. What do you guys think?
I think it's a deserved right. I think he's one of the best Xfinity drivers, and to see him finally get like a team with like a lot of sponsorship background is really cool.
One word, or well, actually one letter, W.
Yeah, I think it's really good for him. I think he's a really talented driver, and he definitely deserves the ride.
I think it's a great move that they're putting him in RCR equipment, but I gotta ask, what's going to happen? Is he going to go in the 2 car and replace Myatt Snyder, or are they going to reopen the 21, or are they going to get another car, or what's going on with that? That's my question.
Would they get like a 31 or a 3 or something like that? I don't know if they do a 3 Xfinity car again, but maybe the 31.
I don't know. And then there's some rumblings about Anthony Alfredo might be leaving front row, but that could be wrong because it was on Reddit. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with their camp and see if Myatt Snyder stays. I think he should stay.
I think Myatt Snyder should stay. He looks really good in that 2 car.
Right, and then put Creed in the 21 like what Alfredo had.
Yes.
Justin Allgaier returns to Junior Motorsports for a 7th season, which this is good news to see. He definitely deserved that ride, and I hope he can win the championship this season.
Expected.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah. Good move.
And finally, Starcom Racing will be closing its doors. What do you guys have to say about this?
Well, we knew this was going to happen, and they're going to Spire, or they're being bought by Spire Motorsports. And yeah, I mean, it's sort of sad, but at the same time, of course, this is what happens with small teams. There's going to be some that just drop out of the sport. There's going to be some that get bought by other teams, and they just don't have the money to be able to have the equipment and everything, be able to pay everybody. So that's what I'd say about that.
Honestly, not gonna miss him. That sounds really wrong, but
that is
true.
wrong. I know someone that was working or was a pit crew member on Starcom 2 years ago, and he's still with them. And yeah, he said he's pretty sad about it.
Josiah, your thoughts?
Oh, yeah, I agree with Cam. I'm not really gonna miss them. I've never really seen them up front that much. So, bye.
Oh man.
Yeah, I think Starcom is probably one of the worst teams in NASCAR. So it's not really too shocking. It's not really too shocking to see them gone, especially because they replaced Landon Castle, who's an actual decent driver, with Quinn Houff. So
yeah, that was a bad move. That was a bad move.
So yeah, that was expected. I know that they did sell their charter to Spire, but now they're just completely gone. I don't even know if like the team's equipment is being sold to Spire. But from what I heard, they're gone. They're liquidating. They're gone. So that's sad, but at the same time, I'm not going to miss them, and I'm especially not going to miss Quinn Houff. All right, so we'll be right back after this cut. All right, guys, we're back. So we're going to do another topic sort of that comes off the top of our heads. We're going to talk about NASCAR drivers that we've met, or in simple terms, nicest and rudest NASCAR drivers that we've met. Now, most of the drivers that I've met have been autographs, but I do have a couple of stories where I have met NASCAR drivers. So I'll let you guys begin before I start mine.
I feel like I have a whole lot, so I'm just not going to say like a lot of them. I'm just going to say some notable ones. By far, the nicest drivers I've ever met are my 3 favorite ones in the Cup Series right now. Eric Almirola, Ross Chastain, and Chase Briscoe. They're really nice dudes. They took time out of their day to talk to you for 5 minutes. They're interested in learning and knowing how you became a fan. They're interested in knowing like what you do, like you're on social media and all that. There is some drivers I've met to where I was able to talk to them about me just graduating college, like Bobby Allison. I was just like, hey, just graduated college. I'm sort of a young fan, but I really enjoyed watching the sport from back in the 80s and 70s when you used to race. Stuff like that. There's some drivers that I've noticed are much different in person than they are online. Example, Natalie Decker. That's a huge example of that. I mean, there's a lot. I've met a good bit of drivers. I'll say Jimmy Johnson is a really interesting one, driver I got to meet because I remember when I got to meet him at Daytona, there were so many people trying to get to talk to him and get his autograph. And I I could see where he was like, sort of like, oh, I have to be here because if I don't, then of course a lot of people will be mad at me. I have to be here because of the team. But he just had like a lot of people all over him trying to push people out of the way to be able to talk to him and get his autograph. And, I can get why it could be stressful for some drivers because they have all these things they have to do. They have a lot of things on the race day schedule. So, I mean, it could just be, you have to think about it like this. Drivers are people just like us. And yes, they're famous and everything, but at the same time, you have to realize sometimes they could be frustrated because of something that happened on the track. They could be frustrated because, say, for instance, they just had an encounter with a fan or something to where they said, like, I don't know, a fan just, say, for example, was heckling them. You have to think about that as well. Because there's sometimes where you'll come up to a driver or you try to introduce yourself and they just want to make it quick. You're like, hey, you just want a picture? Hey, you just want an autograph? And then there's some, it also just depends on like what time of the day it is. It could be like, say for instance, it's right near the start of the race. They're trying to just get autographs on. They're just trying to get to the grid. They're trying to get prepared for the race. So it all just depends on the situation, in my opinion. I will say there's some that are nice. There's some that would be nice just no matter the situation and be as polite as possible. And there's some that can be rude. Like I know people that have had bad experiences meeting or working, for example, Tony Stewart and Jimmy Johnson. So it all just depends on the situation, in my opinion. So anyone else want to share?
Yeah, I've actually never met any drivers personally. Yes, I know I'm lame. It's whatever. But I do know some people that have dealt with, some, bad people before and some nice people. But I'd say I'm just going to give some people that I've heard that are notoriously known for being just bad with fans. Bubba Wallace, I've heard Denny Hamlin's not really the best. I've heard he's kind of a jerk. I've heard that Chase Elliott's been mad a couple of times. Heard about Brad Keselowski. And there's a few others I've heard of before, but those are just 4 notoriously known that I've heard of more than 3 times from people. So, that's all.
Yeah, I've never really had much driver interactions, but I did an interview for my YouTube channel. I have interviewed a few NASCAR drivers, like Jesse Awuji. I interviewed him, and that was actually my first interview. But yeah, I feel but at Michigan, I had a pit pass, and Ryan Newman waved at me, so that's about my closest interaction. Oh yeah, also this one's kind of cool, but we were on the other side of the fence, and Jeff Gordon waved to us. We were the only ones there, and Jeff Gordon was there, so that was kind of cool.
All right, so I've also had some experiences. So here's a list of some of the drivers that I've gotten autographs and or pictures of, and the pictures will be on the screen. Joey Logano, Martin Truex Jr., Jeffrey Earnhardt, Eric Almirola, Ryan Blaney, Justin Allgaier, Dale Jr., Kyle Larson, Ryan Newman, Jimmy Johnson, I've gotten an autograph from. Kyle Busch. I don't know if I said Dale Jr., but yes, I have met Dale Jr. Matt Kenseth, I've gotten an autograph from. Mike Helton, I've gotten an autograph from. I have a whole sheet of autographs on my pit pass, and I need to go find it because it is one of the coolest things I own. But yeah, and Kurt Busch, I can't forget Kurt Busch.
Yeah.
So some of the nicest drivers I've met that I've actually had interactions with, talking to the drivers. Joey Logano, I'm not being biased here, no BS. Kurt Busch, and Dale Jr. So why don't we start off with the first ever NASCAR driver I met, Kurt Busch. I managed to get a chance to meet him in his hauler, and he was just a super, super down to earth guy. And I remember I didn't really want to meet him. Like, it was cool. Don't get me wrong. Like, it was cool, but at the same time, I thought that he was kind of a jerk. So I thought that he'd just be like rude to us, but no, he was super, super down to earth guy. He was really nice to, little 10-year-old me, giving me fist bumps, giving me autographs, getting down to my level to take a picture with me. So Kurt Busch is definitely a really awesome guy, and I would highly recommend going to meet him. Joey Logano, obviously I'm going to say Joey Logano, but Joey Logano is like a super down to earth guy, and I don't really understand why people hate him. He's always doing charity work for people. He's always nice to fans, regardless who you're a fan of, and he's just a super awesome dude. And the story that I've had with him is I've met him about 2 to 3 times.
Wow.
The first time I met him was my cousin. She managed to get me in backstage before driver introductions because she knew someone who's working there, and I was like freaking out because he was right in front of me. And I said, hi Joey, I'm one of your biggest fans. And he's like, I can see that, because I was wearing a bunch of like Joey Logano gear, of course. But yeah, one day, I think it was in 2017, because he was not in the playoffs. 2016, 2017. This was by far the coolest interaction I've ever had in a NASCAR garage. He comes out of the drivers meeting, and I was trying to get something out for him to sign, and I didn't see him do this per se, but my mom said she did. But I did hear him say this to me. He smiles at me and he says, "What's up, man?" And I'm just like, holy expletive. Joey Logano knows who I am. What?
Remember you.
And I had a plan, because it was around the time that he had his first child. And I had a plan to be like, all right, Mike, you're going to say, Joey, congratulations about the news of your child, or your baby, whatever I was going to say to him. And he said that to me, and I just stood there like frozen, that he actually like acknowledged me like that. Like, someone I've idolized and watched on TV for years noticed me. And Dale Jr., this is a really funny story. Most of these guys, like I said, have been before the drivers meeting, except for Kurt Busch, which I actually got an intimate conversation with him, like I said. But yeah, Dale Jr. comes walking out, and me and my dad, we are Washington football team fans, but before they were called Redskins, the Redskins. So me and my dad were screaming "Hail to the Redskins" in Dale Jr.'s face, and Dale Jr. was loving it. I could tell on his face he was loving it. He was smiling, took a picture with me. Super nice guy. And the rudest guy that I've ever met, this will probably stick with me for a while, Brad Keselowski.
Oh, wow.
I was trying to like meet him. Well, actually, there's a couple of rude stories, but Brad Keselowski is one of them who I wanted to get an autograph from. And just a disclaimer, this is just my experience. So if you've had a good experience with Brad Keselowski, let me know in the comments. I'm sure that he might not be a bad guy, but just in this instance, he was kind of a jerk. I was like screaming at him. I was like, Brad, like, I wanted his autograph, and I was holding up the paper for him to sign. And like, he didn't even have to make like eye contact with me, because there's a couple other drivers who, like Denny Hamlin and Danica Patrick, they don't even look. Like, they just walk right past you. But Brad looked at me dead center in the eyes, like, just, huh? Like that. And then he walked away in the drivers meeting. So I'm like, all right, whatever, I'll get him again. And then I start screaming again for him. I'm like, Brad! And then he just walks away. I'm like, all right, screw you, Brad. I don't want to like you anymore. You suck. And
probably thought you were like being cringy or something, but that face you made had me deceased.
yeah. I don't know if I mentioned Ryan Blaney and Kyle Larson. I've also took pictures of them. They were cool dudes. And
they are.
I also got to see Richard Petty. Me, my mom, and my cousin were walking in the outside the track, and he comes riding in a golf cart, and he's just waving at people. And Jeff Gordon, I wanted to get his autograph too, and I was shouting at him, but he was leaving. But unlike Mr. Kozlowski, he had the decency to at least smile and wave at me. So thank you, Jeff.
Yep, I will say there's a couple that you just brought up, like the golf carts. I've seen drivers come and go on golf carts, like to the pit area or outside the track. Like there's some. I remember one time in particular, Chase Elliott, he was on a golf cart, and it was crazy. All the fangirls that are trying to come up to him, and he just looked disgusted, like he was just like not in the mood. I will say that I've met drivers before, not just for the attention of autograph, just get to meet them. I will say there's some drivers I've met and got pictures with that I didn't get autographs from, and then there's some that I've gotten autographs from that I didn't get pictures with. And I mean, there's a lot of them I've met. I'm not trying to sound like I'm bragging or nothing, but I've met like a lot of them. Like almost all the Truck Series drivers, almost all the Cup drivers currently, and even some from the past, like Darrell Waltrip, like Richard Petty. It's really cool to get to have the opportunity to meet them, because not in many other sports you get to meet some of these athletes. And with NASCAR, you could just go into the garage area with the pit pass and you'll be able to run into one of them just walking in the garage. And you have the opportunity to go to the holler and all that. Like I met Kurt Busch, like you mentioned Kurt Busch. He was one of the nicest people. I did not expect him to be this nice. And I'm just from like growing up watching NASCAR, at the time he had a huge rivalry with Jimmy Johnson, and he was just known as a bad boy. But when I met him, he was just genuine and really nice with the fans. I will say Joey Logano, he ignored me, but I understood why. He was in the garage area and they were getting ready for practice, so it didn't bother me too much. Brad Keselowski, seen him a couple times. Kyle Busch is definitely probably really nice to fans. I've never met Kyle Busch, but I bet he probably is. Same thing with Joey Logano. Danica Patrick, I remember when I met her twice. I met her at Martinsville twice in 2013 and 2014. I remember in 2014, the second time I met her, I had grown a couple more inches because, yeah, of course, I was like 13. But nevertheless, she did remember me. I will say Kevin Harvick, I met Kevin Harvick the same year that he won the championship, and then Austin Dillon, which the year after that, Austin Dillon almost like had that bad crash at Daytona. I'm sorry for rambling on, but yeah, there's just so much more I can get into with this question or this topic. There's a lot I could say.
Hey guys, so really quickly, I just want to mention a couple more stories before we get back into the video. The first one was when I met Justin Allgaier. I can't believe I forgot to tell the story when we were recording, but he was a super nice guy. I was walking on the pit lane with my mom and my cousin, and I saw him getting out of his car, so I walked up to him and I'm like, hey, can I have your autograph? And I knew he was a driver, but I just didn't know who he was. And to be completely honest, because I was not paying attention to the Xfinity series at that time, because it was a race where it was the Xfinity race and it got rained out the day prior, so they had to do it the same day as the Cup race. And he was just getting out of his car, and I walked up to him and I said, hey, can I have your autograph? And he was nice enough to sign an autograph, take a picture with me, and shake my hand. And I honestly thought he was Regan Smith, because I didn't realize, like I said, because I didn't follow the Xfinity series at that time. So luckily I didn't say thanks Regan, or yeah, but I luckily figured it out that it was Justin. And another rude story was with Danica Patrick. She was walking out of the drivers meeting, and there was this guy trying to get an autograph for his daughter. And my dad is really, really good at like getting autographs from people. So he takes the guy's daughter's hat and holds it up, and he says, Danica, will you sign this for my daughter? And she says so snootily, sure, and then just signs it and then walks away. So those are my stories. Back to the video. Yeah, so let us know your driver experiences in the comments. We would love to read them. Maybe you've had a different experience with some drivers. Maybe you've had a similar experience. Let me know, and I'll read them.
Yep. Well, it's at the time of the program for this week's Top 10. And we were mentioning some rude drivers and we're mentioning some that are nice, but this one, it's about the ones on the naughty list. It is the top 10 feuds, run-ins, and tempers at Bristol Motor Speedway. So starting off at number 10, this one, he's up on the list twice. And for this one at the number 10 spot, we got Robbie Gordon becoming a menace to society in the 2002 Sharpie 500. Roll the clip.
Is the leader. Oh, and Jimmy Johnson gets turned right in the front of Mark Martin. John Andretti in the crash. Gordon just got bumped. Jeff Gordon just got, I don't know how much damage.
Robbie Gordon just
Look at this. Look at this.
Robbie's getting into everybody tonight.
So at number 10, Robbie Gordon, he had multiple run-ins in this race, and his most notable one was when he dumped Jimmy Johnson on a restart on lap 377. He bumped him multiple times during the cool-down lap, and even before they were going to go green, he just kept running into him for no reason. And then when Jimmy spun his tires on restart, Robbie proceeded to then turn him around, and Mark Martin was collected, and they crashed. Jimmy Johnson, understandably, was not too happy about this. He gave him the finger as he went by. But Gordon, back then, this is when they had to race back to the yellow flag. So Gordon was trying to get a lap back. He was bumping people out of the way, running on the apron to get a lap back. He ended up getting penalized 2 laps because of this. And then on the radio, he's like, oh, what did I do? Robbie, come on, bro. You know what you did. So moving on to number 9.
Okay, so yes, coming in at number 9 is the 2001 Bristol race, the Food City 500 2001 at Bristol. Roll the clip.
Ever so slightly, Tony comes down, no place for Gordon to go, and here's Tony over here on the front straightaway, and watch this.
And on pit road, Stewart expresses his...
Okay, so on the final lap of the 2001 Food City 500, Jeff Gordon spun to Tony Stewart while they were battling for 4th. Stewart would end up 25th, last car on the lead lap, and understandably upset. He ran into Jeff on pit road. This was also Elliott Sadler's first career cup win.
In at number 8 is Ward Burton versus Dale Jr. Here's the clip.
Very high right now. I talked to maybe next Friday. Yeah, Darlington. And now the call goes out on the NASCAR radio for the driver and crew chief of the 22. On board with Dale Earnhardt Jr. Come off turn 2, start down the back stretch. Junior gets a run. He thinks he has enough, but just barely makes contact with Ward. And bam, in the wall. That's what. But there was.
So on lap 404, error, Dale Jr. got into Ward Burton, turning him hard into the wall. The two were strong contenders in the race, and Burton showed his displeasure by throwing his heel pads at the 8 car. In the interview, he said he was really heated and said he had some things that he wished he could have shot through the window. It was the final caution.
And at number 7, Joey Logano tries going after Denny Hamlin in 2013.
Live in Bristol, Tennessee, moments ago, post-race, that's Joey Logano. Remember, who got bumped by Denny Hamlin going over to Hamlin's car and wanting to talk with Denny about it. You see the crew from the Joe Gibbs team. They were former Joe Gibbs Racing teammates. And Michael Waltrip, you said that Logano wouldn't take the apology over the radio lightly, and the pushing is coming to shoving here.
Yeah, and we can see what happened. Joey Logano pulled up in front of Denny. Denny said, I'm not giving you a break, Joey, and punts him when he gets down to turn 1 and 2, spins Joey around, and tempers flared after the race.
Hamlin out of line.
Hamlin, you've got to give and take in this sport. He gave, he didn't take.
Matt Yoakum is with Denny Hamlin.
And Denny.
I see he was coming for me, so I usually don't see him, so it's usually not a factor.
All right, thanks, Denny. Chris?
I mean, it's Bristol, but it's ridiculous. It's not. I feel like I race him clean all the time, and he's going to do that. So I understand the way he races now that he's not my teammate, and I will race him the same way he races me.
Denny Hamlin led the most laps with 117 that day in the 2013 Food City 500 and was battling in the top 10 late in the race with Joey Logano. Denny ended up turning the 22 around. It's not surprising, with about 150 to go. Interestingly, Logano finished 17th, Hamlin 23rd, suck it, Hamlin. After the race, Joey attempted to confront Denny, and the crews skirmished. The next race, their feud reunited at Auto Club.
In at number 6 is Dale Jarrett throwing his helmet at Bobby Hillin. Here's the clip.
Car was sticking so far out on pit road. He was legal as far as that part was concerned, but it was very tough for Earnhardt to get out.
Well, my apologies to Dale Jarrett. I said that it appears as if it just got out from under him. There was apparently some contact between Dale and Bobby Hillin Jr. because Dale went onto the racetrack in the caution period, and you can see what happened. Obviously, Dale
he was not very smart
about the situation.
So he got wrecked while trying to get by the lap car of Bobby, and he had been in another incident earlier in the race and was really struggling. Basically, he just rear-ended the wall in 3, and Dale just destroyed Bobby with words, basically lecturing him, and this was the race after Alan Kawicki sadly passed away.
Yeah, that race, Jarrett was having a strong car. He was up front, and then he just couldn't get by the lap car, Bobby Hillin, and Hillin just had enough, and he had already been frustrated, just put him in a wall. So I told you Robbie Gordon would appear again, but number 5, Robbie Gordon, he had a run in also in the same year, 2002. This was the spring race at Bristol. His run in went down our junior, which boiled over on the pit road. Roll the clip.
Gordon took exception to a similar shot from Earnhardt Jr.
How about the incident afterwards? This is how it started when Dale Earnhardt Jr. bumped Robbie Gordon, and then after the race, Robbie Gordon retaliated.
Well, again, this is Bristol. Earnhardt Jr. felt like he was done wrong. He didn't have an opportunity to come back. This is what happens. But I disagree with what these guys are doing. This race is over with. You got a problem with one another, get out and settle it man to man. This here is being disrespectful.
All right, we got a little problem down here, little altercation with Dale Earnhardt Jr. and a couple of other folks. Dale, what's cooking?
That 31 wouldn't get out of the way. Lap down, racing the leaders with 10 laps to go, but that's why it takes 3 or 4 times for him to finally get into the West Cup Series, because he don't pay attention, he don't know what he's doing.
Wow, second fight in 2 days down here on pit road.
Yeah, the second.
I don't know why he would be running into me after the race. I mean, he's the one that knocked me sideways early, and he tried to run me into pit wall, so I hit him back. We had a good car all day. Singular car was a good car. Jeff Gordon snookered me at the start. That was unfortunate. I mean, he started to go, and then he stopped and let me get a stop and go. So, it's just the way it goes. Bristol's always exciting. I got to be honest, I had a lot of fun today. The car worked really good. We had a car that was easily good as a top 10 car. Just got to be up there to run there, and it's just really hard to get through traffic.
Robbie, this may be a dumb question. Is this a frustrating place to race?
It is, because so many times you can be as a victim of circumstance. Like, I was running along just fine, and Dale Jr. decided to, move me out of the groove. I lost 20 positions right there at that point. So, I didn't quite understand why he did that early in the race, and then after the race, why he ran into me again on the side. So I don't know what I did to make him mad, but hey, nobody runs into me.
So in the 2002 Food City 500, Robbie Gordon and Dale Earnhardt Jr. had a heated battle in the closing laps. They were trading paint and basically almost wrecking each other almost every lap. And eventually Jr. Gave a huge shot to Robbie, put him up towards the top of the track, and Robbie would end up finishing 20th, while Dale Jr. ended up finishing 4th. Post-race, they were hitting each other's cars coming to pit road, and then Jr. just decided to put him in the wall on pit road. Both the cars pretty well destroyed. The two almost came into blows, and then Dale Jr., of course, gave him the finger, and they basically took shots at each other in the post-race interview. This race was also known for Kurt Busch's first career win, which he ended up moving Jimmy Spencer out of the way to get that.
And at number 4, Jeff Gordon gets spun, shows Matt Kenseth in 2006.
Oh, and look at this. The 24 just went around.
The great thing about the 2006 confrontation between Jeff Gordon and Matt Kenseth is they were battling for third place. Kenseth had led that day. He had been very fast. He had been leading. He lost the lead with 5 laps to go. Kurt Busch got around him. So now he had dropped back to second, then he dropped back to third, and here comes Jeff Gordon. Well, Gordon gets into him, makes a little tab, moves him up the racetrack. Gordon takes third. Matt's in fourth now.
Jeff Gordon just got by Matt Kenseth for third space.
He's not very happy. He's not very happy at all. So they go back down into 1 and 2. Kenseth drives in a little bit harder. He gets all over Gordon's back bumper, and the next thing we know, the 24 is spinning. Well, Kenseth comes home third. Jeff was not real happy about that. And Jeff said, you know, I moved him. He wrecked me. And that's really the difference. Kenseth stepped over the line.
I'm going to give it back to him what he gives to me. And
I didn't do it on purpose, and I would be mad if I was him. And I left my car to go over and apologize him, which I probably should have waited a little bit longer.
So Kenseth was already on pit road, had already gotten out of the car, and then made the mistake of taking off his helmet. And he's walking over toward Gordon, going to apologize. And Jeff came out, still had his helmet on, and it was kind of like, you know, waving the red cape in front of the bull or something like that. And he didn't mean to do it. I'm sure he didn't, but maybe he did. You never know.
Kenseth approached Gordon. Kenseth walked over to Gordon's car with his palms out, his arms open, as if to talk about it. Gordon would have none of it.
Also known as the Snowball at the Bristol Coliseum, the race was another caution-filled event with 18 in the final laps. Matt Kenseth was up in front, but got bumped out of the way by Kurt Busch, who went on to win. On the final lap, Matt spun Jeff Gordon for third, putting Jeff in 21st. On pit road, Matt attempted to apologize to Jeff, but got shoved. Later that year, the two would tangle for the win at Chicagoland, with Gordon getting the win.
Yeah, that race, the qualifying was snowed out for that event, and they basically made qualifying sign a lot based off points.
Okay, so coming in at number 3 is Tony Stewart throwing his helmet at Matt Kenseth in 2012.
There he goes. Smoke that's going to be able to hold it. Well, he got to the line that he wanted to, so see how far Kenseth drives it in here. He couldn't get his slide job to work quite as good. It's a lot of contact. Oh, no. There they go. Didn't work out for either one of them. Tony's not very happy. Oh. Gosh, looks familiar. Well, we know what Tony thinks.
On lap 334, Tony Stewart and Matt Kenseth were battling side by side for the win when they made contact, and then they actually crashed in the front stretch. And then later, while Matt Kenseth was coming out of pit road, Tony Stewart would actually throw his helmet at Matt Kenseth's car. And I thought the commentating was really good in that moment too, because they were like, wow, that's some good aim, Tony Stewart. And I thought that was funny, but yeah, so that was a pretty, Tony Stewart's always been known for doing all those. He had a lot of rage, but yeah, but also I want to say that Matt Kenseth would end up finishing 25th and Tony Stewart would finish 27th. And also, Denny Hamlin won the race.
And at number 2 is Kevin Harvick versus Greg Biffle, with Harvick leaping over his car. Here's the clip.
Well, you know, our car was a little bit tight, and we were just trying to make it to the end, and we were catching the 18 and the 23. And, you know, I always said Greg Biffle was a good guy, but he's about the most impatient thing. I'll be waiting when he comes in here.
Here we go. And this is Kevin Harvick going after Greg Biffle. Well, that's a shame, but you have seen how fenders and tempers can fly here at Bristol. As he was waiting for Greg Biffle when Biffle climbed out of
So this took place in 2002 Busch Series race. With around 10 laps to go, Greg turned into Kevin into the outside wall while battling in the top 10. Harvick said in an interview that he'll be waiting for Greg after the race, and he did. He jumped over Greg's car and got up in his face as a huge pile of pit crews and media surrounded them. Biffle finished 5th and Harvick 24th, with Jeff Green winning.
That was a huge fight, and it was one of the biggest that NASCAR had in a while. Kevin Harvick, he was basically acting like a lunatic. He was just of course he was waiting on him, and then he just jumped over the car, was screaming in Greg's face, gave him a rude awakening, I guess, in a way. And yeah, he made his point across, and it was one of the first times we'd see Kevin Harvick lose his temper on the track. And
I remember.
Good.
I remember Kevin Harvick, man. That had a bad outlook on him for a while. I remember, like, for some reason, people were really soft for some reason. I don't know why. But a lot of people got really upset about the whole issue, which, I mean, I don't really get. He was young. He didn't really know better. It's going to happen. And people, I remember, got really upset about it.
For sure. And number one, I feel like I should include both the 1995 incident and the 1999 incident at this number one spot. But of course, this is when Dale Earnhardt Sr. rattled Terry Labonte's cage in 1995 and 1999. Also featuring Rusty Wallace. Roll the clip.
Strategy, he pulls over. Labonte is sideways, but wins the race. Crashes, and he wins anyway. How about that?
Earnhardt and Terry Labonte, you know, came around turn 4. We were right there, standing up, right there in our seats on the grandstand.
He just plain wrecked him because he knew he was going to get beat. So that was the worst one I've ever seen. You know, it was probably the most exciting because everybody was wound up, and you know, some people were happy, most people were mad. But man, that was a bad one. So that was about the worst one that I ever seen. I felt bad for Terry in that one because he had the race won the right way.
Now, who would have thought? I mean, that was Dale Earnhardt. You know, everybody loved him, but it got pretty bad there for a while.
You just heard this hush fall over the entire suite, and there was a silence, like, what's going to happen now? With an ooh.
My favorite Bristol memory is definitely Earnhardt and Terry. That's the only time in my career covering Dale Earnhardt that I heard the boos, that he got booed mercilessly. He got out of his car in Victory Lane and all those crazy sparks went off, and it sounded like he was the most hated man in the sport. Not that it was Earnhardt country, but what a fantastic night. Oh, Terry was pissed.
Terry was my teammate through those moments, and I remember how upset Terry was, and I knew how good of friends Dale and he were. They went hunting and fishing together, and you know, those friendships are gone when you get on the racetrack and you're trying to win a race, which Dale proved in the closing laps. And whether or not Dale meant to wreck him or not, he probably meant to move him. In that case, he misjudged, and he did more than move him, and he won the race, of course, and Terry was left with a wrecked race car and not real happy about it.
And I don't think I've ever heard Dale Earnhardt get booed in Victory Lane before then or after.
When Dale took Labonte out, I had walked down to pit road, and I had gone down there in order to cover the end of the race. And I was down in the pit box of Richard Childress Racing and Dale Earnhardt. And I was standing down in the pit box, and the race ended. Of course, we didn't expect that was going to happen. And I remember Richard Childress came down from the pit box, and I was down in the pit area, and nothing came out of my mouth. I had my microphone, and he looked at me, and nothing came out of his mouth. We looked at each other for a second, and we both went. It was like the air had been sucked out of Bristol Motor Speedway, and the words would not come out. I still remember, speechless, myself and Richard Childress at that moment.
1995 Bristol night race. Early on in the event, Dale Earnhardt ended up spinning and wrecking Rusty Wallace, and Wallace was not too happy about that. Wallace would get back on the track and participate in the race. Of course, his shot at winning was over. Later on in the race, Dale Earnhardt, of course, had a lot of damage because he had multiple run-ins with lap cars throughout the race as well, and Terry Labonte was pretty far ahead. But when it came to the end, Dale Earnhardt made up almost a half a lap and basically like 5 laps. He was almost a half lap down, and he just stormed through the field as Labonte was stuck in traffic. And he was able to get to Labonte's back bumper, but it was too late. He did drill him coming off turn 4. Labonte spun across the line and wrecked. So his wrecked car went to victory lane that day, and it was one of the craziest finishes in NASCAR history. After the race, Rusty Wallace went after Dale Earnhardt. They had a heated discussion, which you saw in the video. 1999, Terry Labonte and Dale Earnhardt would have another incident. This time, the roles were almost reversed. Terry Labonte, he got spun out while leading with 10 laps to go. He went down pit road and got tires. Everyone else didn't have tires. So Dale Earnhardt was leading. Labonte stormed from like 17 all the way up to second in like, I don't know, like 5-6 laps. Caught Dale Earnhardt coming to the white flag. He got by him. And then Earnhardt just dumped him coming off turn 2, which resulted in the pileup of one of the most memorable finishes in NASCAR history. And Dale, with the famous interview, "I just wanted to rattle his cage, yo." And a lot of booing and cheering happened that day. Labonte clearly frustrated. And I feel like that was the obvious choice at number 1. So what did y'all think about this list?
Solid.
Very valid.
Yes, this was a good list. It's good to have somebody like Christian who knows a lot about NASCAR history. So yeah, I think it's a good list.
Yes, that is the exact reason why I asked him to come on this podcast, and I would say it has worked out very well. So thank you for all you do, Savage NASCAR.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for nice, kind words. Yeah, I thought we should do something different other than just crashes and moments. But for a Bristol race where there's lots of like tempers, I feel like it'd be cool to do the fights for once. So yeah.
So now let's get into our picks for this weekend's races at Bristol. So let's start off with the truck race. I'm going to go with kind of an odd pick here, someone who I wouldn't really pick too much. I'm going to go with Tyler Ankrum.
Wow. I would love to see Tyler Ankrum win, but I'm actually pulling up the entry list right now. Could someone possibly go before me?
I am also doing the same.
Truck entry list for Bristol.
Okay, so yeah, I actually have the list up too for Bristol right now, and I guess I'll go with my pick. I'll say, I have a good feeling about John Hunter Nemechek. I think I'll pick him to win.
Well, I do have the entry list for the Xfinity up. Truck race, we've seen a good bit of action crash-wise in the truck series the past couple years at Bristol. And just looking at the entry list right now, there isn't a lot of huge names like Cup. Say, for instance, there isn't a lot of Cup drivers in this race. For me, I'm going to have to go with a surprise. And I've been wanting this guy to win for a long time. Spencer Boyd. I'm picking Spencer Boyd to win this race.
Looking at this, I'm going Creed. I think he's in a decent spot. I think he could maybe work with something out there.
All right, so for the Xfinity race, I'm going to say Justin Allgaier.
It'd be interesting to see him go back. I'm sorry, what you say, Cam? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. I'm going AJ.
AJ? Whew. Man, there's a lot of big names on the list. Brett Moffitt would be one that comes to mind, and Jeremy Clemens and Brandon Jones, probably Herbst. They're the drivers with the final 3 spots above the cut line for the Xfinity Series. I'm going to pick Ty Gibbs to win this race. Because JGR is pretty consistent at Bristol, and Tyler Gibbs has had a fantastic year. I think he's going to get the win.
That is a good pick, Christian. But I think I'll go with. Let me see here. I'm looking at the list right now. I'll go with Justin Allgaier. I think he's been really good this season, and I think he'll win at Bristol. I don't really know how good he is there, but yeah, I'm picking him, Justin Allgaier.
And finally, for the Cup race, I'm going to say a Toyota sweep of this round, and I'm going to say Kyle Busch wins.
Well, when I did my playoff predictions, I went ahead and picked the winners of the rest of the season. And my pick for the Bristol race is Joey Logano. So he's going to sweep Bristol this year.
Looking at the entry list and seeing the cars, this kind of come off maybe a little shocking because I believe it was last year they had a little bit of a rivalry after Chase Elliott being an idiot, which is who I'm going to pick with is Chase Elliott. So, I mean, he looks like he's in the good spot. I mean, I think maybe he could work with something out there. Maybe, possibly.
Okay, so this is a little bit more of an out there pick, but I'm actually going to go with Kurt Busch. I think he gets his 7th. I think that's right. It's his 7th win at Bristol.
Yeah, Kurt Busch is definitely a good pick. He definitely has some potential to go out there, especially when he's below the cut line or tied for the cut line. So we'll see how he does. I hope he does really well.
He's won a lot at Bristol. I remember especially like his rookie year, he won the spring race in 2002. He won the 2003. If I'm correct, he swept the Bristol races in 2003. He has a really good history there.
All right. But with that will conclude this week's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. Comment, like, and subscribe. Make sure you guys follow our Instagrams. Join our NASCAR Fantasy League. Subscribe to our second channel, the Sports Channel, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.